Hi, Joe and Josh from PH Tennis, and it's a big day today.
Big day.
Because we've got one of the most famous ranges of rackets in the world. Iconic ranges. Used by Pete Sampras, Roger Federer,
Dan Evans, Alfie Hewitt.
Exactly. And that is the Wilson Pro Staff.
Woohoo!
So we've got here the 97, 315 gram classic, and
the most exciting addition to the range, the Pro Staff X. The full Pro Staff range will now still have the RF at the top. I'm thinking that Wilson at some point will maybe do a legacy RF, new paint job, something quite cool. I'm guessing, but I think there's got to be something in the pipeline for that. And then these new Desert Brown Pro Staffs, of which there are three. The 97, the X, which are the two that we're trialing today, and then the 97L, which is the 290 gram, slightly lighter version.
First impressions. We're slightly dubious about the Desert Brown, but like all of the Wilson new paint jobs, this is great. And it's colour shifting like the Blade and like the Ultra is. Yep. We played with it on a clay court in the bright sunshine, and it had that really like popping sort of orange come out of it. You can see the orange detail on the side. And then under lights later that evening, it had like a purple tinge as well, and some sort of green coming through. So again, beautiful racket. I'm never going to like it as much as the plain black Pro Staff, because I think plain black rackets are really cool, but it's a beautiful job.
I also think in our restring job here with the gold 4G soft has really set it off nicely looks wise.
So what's new in this racket? Well, very little in the 97, as you might imagine. It's a classic, why change too much? What they have got is paradigm bending.
What it is, it's actually named after it's a boating term, and it comes from the shape of the hull.
Ah.
So the idea is that the paradigm bending in the racket allows the head to flex more and therefore come round, and it's that shape, that kind of concave shape of a hull of a boat. That's what it's similar. So Wilson's idea is the Pro Staff 95, which was one of the most famous and popular Pro Staffs what Federer used for years, trying to replicate the feel of that in the 97, in the new 97, and they did that by creating the same amount of flex, and it's the paradigm bending that is doing that.
Because it's the flex that was the big selling point of that 95, right?
Yeah, so
interesting.
That is paradigm bending. You heard it here first.
So in the spirit of Wilson's sort of move towards greater sustainability, obviously the Wilson Trinity and the Trinity Pro for their balls, the racket is made with better sustainable products, both in the butt cap, the grommets, and the bumper. Sustainable.
The other new entry is, of course, having the X, the 100 square inch head, which we think will allow the Pro Staff to become a more accessible racket for more players. We have a lot of customers come in the shop who buy Pro Staffs and then a period of time later come back, buy a Blade, buy an Ultra, buy something a little bit easier still in the range. And I think the X will bring some of those people back, but we need to really try it and see. It still might be too narrow beam and too difficult, but it should make that a little bit easier.
Yeah, we've strung it up with some 4G soft. If you watch our string review, is one of our top strings. Beautiful string, loads of dwell time.
Dwell time.
So we're going to get on court and we're going to try both rackets out, see what we think.
So we've just come off court, we've been play testing the new Pro Staff, and I have here the 97, a 315 gram version. First impressions playing, really nice, especially on the front foot, especially when the ball was flatter and you were trying to kind of play through the court. It really gave some really nice feedback. As the Pro Staff kind of has always been, feel and precision are kind of there, accuracy. It goes where you want it to go, it goes where you expect it to go, and it's definitely got some flex to it, and yeah, so that makes it feel quite comfortable when you're using it. Initial thoughts is it's a Pro Staff, very, very similar to the old one, the version 13, 12 and 11. It hasn't changed much, to be honest, over the last few iterations. Basically, I think Wilson take the approach of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a perfectly lovely racket.
It felt to me easier to use than the previous version. Pro Staff has always been a racket that I really wanted to be able to play with, but never felt that it was forgiving enough for me to get away with it. And this feels slightly different. That might be because we tested this on clay, whereas often we're testing on Astro. That might have had an impact. The ball's sitting up a little bit more, it's a little bit slower. But I felt like this was much easier to get on with in the previous version. It's got all of those Pro Staff traits, right? It's very, very precise. Volleying's very, very crisp. But you are going to struggle to generate power unless your timing is spot on. And I think that's the reason that the Pro Staff is difficult. Is very rewarding when it's right, but very tricky if not. And this is no different really, albeit there's maybe slightly softer, slightly easy, slightly more maneuverable than the previous version.
Very specific, the type of people who can use it. The one thing I've always found with Pro Staffs, and it's no different with this, is it's so hard to get it right that you're almost a bit surprised when you do. So because of the smaller head size, it's got a smaller sweet spot, but a way more fun sweet spot, you could say. So when I'm playing with it, I trying, and then as soon as I get it, the ball just absolutely rockets away.
If you're a Pro Staff user, this isn't going to disappoint. This has got everything that you want and that you love in a Pro Staff already. And similarly, if you're kind of hedging your bets and you think like, I'd love to be playing with the Pro Staff 97, but not quite feeling like I'm getting it in the middle often enough, maybe give this a go because it's got a little bit of something slightly easier to it.
If you're trying to kind of rip a load of topspin, a little bit tougher. This is definitely for those cleaner, flatter hitters. Equally on serve, it was okay for first serves, but trying to hit like big kick serves was quite hard work, if I'm honest. Volleying though, so crisp. That's kind of a Pro Staff trait all the way through, but so comfortable, so easy. Yeah, when you nail it on a Pro Staff, you get all the benefits, and that was definitely true of this new version 14.
It's a heavy racket, 315, so it's a heavy, small head, tiny sweet spot. It's going to be hard to use, so definitely a racket to try first. You've got to really make sure that you can make this racket work for you.
So the Pro Staff X, the new Pro Staff in the range, still the 315 gram weight, but the 100 square inch head, and it's great. So easy to use, kind of could pick it up, so much more comfortable and forgiving than the 97, as you'd expect. And it definitely will allow so many more players, so many more of you guys to use the Pro Staff family, which is traditionally a very hard racket to use because of its narrow beam and difficulty to use it.
It says version 14, but it's the first time they've ever made this racket, so it's a version 1. And strangely, I don't think it's a Pro Staff. It doesn't feel like a Pro Staff, doesn't play like a Pro Staff, and looking at it, I don't know if you can see that, it doesn't look like a Pro Staff either. Why I think it works, and I'll be honest, I really, really like this straight away, very first shot. Ooh, this is nice. It feels very soft, it feels very spongy, very flexible. It almost feels more like a blade or a head speed than it does feel like a Pro Staff. The issue a lot of players have with the speed, for example, or the blade is the weight. They're 300, 305 grams. If you want something heavier, you have to move up into the Tours and the Pros. But then they change the string pattern and they just don't quite work as rackets. So basically this feels to me like a heavy blade, which is perfect because you've got that same feel, you've got that same control, but just with a bit more weight behind the ball.
Very, very interesting. I think that what you get that's less Pro Staffy, should we say, is a little bit more power. It's definitely more forgiving as you'd expect because we've gone from a 97-inch frame to 100. I was really excited about this racket because it almost feels like a sort of entry-level Pro Staff, and it's very easy to use. It's very nice, but I didn't find it that exciting. It's not generating loads of power. It is giving you some precision as you expect from a Pro Staff, but not in the same way. So almost to me feels like if you're going Pro Staff, go Pro Staff, and go for that 97, go for that ultra precision. Whereas this is sort of hedging its bets. It's quite similar to the blade, albeit the sort of better feel on the blade. I prefer the blade overall to this. And if I was going to choose between this and the 97, I would actually go for the 97, despite it having its limitations in what I'm able to do with it based on my playing ability and the way the racket is built.
Great for forehands, great for backhands, great for serving, incredibly easy to use, and it just feels really, really nice. So initial impressions, couldn't be more pleased with this. I'm going to give it significantly more playtime, see how I get on.
For serving, you get more pop, easier access to power with the 100, and that's really nice. And the same if you want to generate more spin from the back of the court, the 100 is going to do that for you. And in that sense, it's really nice.
If you've always used Pro Staffs and you like them, then stick with the 97s. But if you've tried Pro Staffs, maybe you've gone off, a lot of people kind of start with a Pro Staff and move to a blade or have moved to a Clash. This is definitely one to try and get you back onto the Pro Staff range because it's that slightly bit easier to use.
We have just played on the courts with the new Pro Staff X and the Pro Staff 97, and we have already given our kind of hot takes from the court for you. So now this is more of a summary period.
Yeah, so I think we'll start with the 97, and I've always wanted to play. I think I said on court, I've always wanted to be able to play with the Pro Staff 97, and always found it just not forgiving enough, not as easy to play with. And I think that this is a Pro Staff. It's a classic Pro Staff. It does what a Pro Staff does. I think it is slightly easier to use than the previous version.
Paradigm bending.
It may be the paradigm bending, but it's a Pro Staff. If you love a Pro Staff already, you're going to love this racket because it's an absolute classic.
And I think I said it on court, but I'll say it again. When you meet a ball, peak of the bounce, flattening it out with that 97, and you nail it, it feels so good.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like it.
It's similar, like for the golfers out there, when you middle a drive and it just goes dead straight, and that feeling is so sweet. Like nailing a flat shot with a 97 square inch Pro Staff is, I think, the closest thing you can get to it in tennis.
And how does it compare to the X?
So then the X was kind of the exciting one, right? Because it was a completely new frame, a whole new mold, 100 square inch head, and it was really, really nice. You lost, as we expected, a little bit on that feeling that I was just talking about, of that having that slightly narrower beam and smaller sweet spot, but the extra you got in terms of generating spin especially, which is so unusual for a Pro Staff, definitely made it worthwhile. You could generate a lot of spin, defending was easier with it, kind of short little counter punches you could still do, and actually, probably to put say to 97 as well, volleying with both of them was a dream.
Yeah, I mean volleying with the Pro Staff is always been brilliant. This is no different. Again, I felt crisper on the 97 because I think you're just more likely to middle it, and I think so you get beautiful crisp volleys off the 97. The 100 for me was really interesting, really exciting because it's something completely new for Pro Staff to do, and it's really easy to play with. So you can pick it up and you can play, and it doesn't feel like a big challenge. But I kind of feel like you lose that Pro Staffiness. I think
of it being difficult to use.
Yeah,
it should be hard to use. It should be hard to get into.
Yeah,
and it's not.
It's that precision. It's that accuracy that the 100 feels slightly like hedging your bets. And I'm kind of a gung ho sort of person. And if you're going to go Pro Staff, go full Pro Staff for me. I prefer the blade. If you're looking for a Wilson racket with that sort of easier to use, that maneuverability, that flex, I think that the blade is preferable to me. But
I think where this will sit is people who like that blade 98 want a bit more weight, and instead of having to put a bit of lead tape or tungsten tape on it, you can just step up and go, well, actually Pro Staff X is gonna give me that extra 10 grams of weight and still give me that, obviously, that feel and control and precision from this kind of narrow beamed type of frame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Serving wise, Pro Staffs are generally quite a difficult racket to serve with compared to others, but again, these were easier than from previous versions. I think this is more of kind of a general tip when demoing rackets and you're serving with them. Obviously, you have to get the weight of the racket moving from 0 to as fast as you can. So the heavier it is, whilst that mass comes through the shot, you've got to get it going. So if you're not strong enough to accelerate it in that serve motion, you're going to struggle to have a quick serve or struggle to generate a lot of kick on a kick serve, for example. So just be wary that whilst you might like the weight off the ground and volleying, you've got to be able to serve big with it.
Yeah. So overall, the 97 is a 97-inch Pro Staff. It's a classic. It's still beautiful to play with when you get it right. And We're about
And I think it's a step up as well.
and for the 100, really good if you're trying to get, as Josh has said, getting back into the pro staff range, maybe on a bit more weight on something like your blade or something like that, then this is good. This is going to be really, really nice for you. Really impressive rackets all round. It's got 13 minutes of memory card. Oh, fucking about.
Bonjour, je m'appelle.
Right. We're just going to pause there a second. You don't need to keep on leaning in. You're doing this. You're still in the frame. You don't need to see yourself. Okay, just look at this.
And obviously, the new is having the X version.
Stop leaning in.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's going to be a good blooper, isn't it? The other new...
Still leaning in. Don't look at yourself. Just look at...